Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
Hey guys, Rod here at A Better Way to Farm. We are excited to be coming to share with you today on this episode. We're going to talk about foliar nitrogen. And as you guys know, our goal here at A Better Way to Farm is to continually increase yields and improve profits and just all around make life better for the American farmer. We appreciate you guys a lot, and it's always great to have you guys around. As we dive into this today, guys, I'm going to say some things that I just want you to think. As per usual, our goal is not to tell you what to think. We're going to try and just make you think, tell you to ask some better questions, roll some things around in your head, because I'm seeing a lot of what I consider to be misinformation, things that I just don't necessarily agree with. And that's based on being out in the field for 32 years and doing all the studying that we can do and reading as much as we can read and learning as many things as we can read. As we start doing this, there are things sometimes that maybe they make sense. You know, in my brain, I've had bright ideas and man, they were the best idea in the world. You know, great idea, magnificent idea, didn't work. Either I couldn't implement it or it just didn't work like I thought. I always use this example. Guys, socialism is a beautiful, loving theory. In the perfect world, we'd all work as hard as we could. We'd contribute as much as we could. We would only take what we need, and it would just be utopia. But the problem is socialism doesn't work because some people don't want to work near as hard as others, and some people want to take a lot more than others. And all of a sudden, we fail to factor in human nature. And so it doesn't work. And there are a lot of theories in agriculture. People come out. I remember one time, guys, we had this company come to us and they had a product that was an earthworm food and they wanted us to test it. And we tested it 3 years in exactly the same spot in the field. And I think it did make a difference. I think it probably did help a bit on the earthworms. And I know that earthworms do help soil. However, this product was very spendy. And because of the fact it was like $24 an acre, and this was 20 years ago, that's a lot of money. And the fact of the matter was, at that point in time, we're selling $3 corn, and I couldn't get a 7-bushel yield increase. And therefore, no matter what, it just wasn't worth it. It didn't work. And especially when I couldn't get a cumulative take on it. And I see a lot of things out here right now like that. Specifically today, I want to talk about foliar nitrogen. Do we believe in foliar nitrogen? Yes, we do. Do we have a foliar nitrogen? Yes, we do. We consider it to be the best on the market. And I'm going to tell you specifically why we believe that. And I've done some searching on the internet. It's always interesting. I guess to some degree you can find a lot of things on there. But if you really dig and you start digging through abstracts of studies and you start reading who's writing it, there's things on the internet that are written by people and it's just a commercial for their product. But then there are other things that are written on there that were written by researchers who didn't have a dog in the fight. They've just studied this form versus this form to see what happens because basically they have a curiosity and they're trying to figure that out. So the first myth that I would very much like to dispel is something that I keep hearing, especially as we either have really high inputs or marginal prices and or both. We see people looking for a shortcut. And guys, my experience would indicate that there are no shortcuts. I get people trying to say that they come up and they say things like, well, we put on 2 gallons of this and they said, it's always they said, I don't know who they is. They said that we could replace 60 pounds of nitrogen with 2 gallons of this product. Guys, do I believe there are different forms? Absolutely. Do I believe there are things that are more efficient and therefore you can put a lot less pounds on? Positively. Does the method that you put it on impact that? Yes, it does. My experience would indicate that thinking I'm going to put on 2 gallons of a 25 or 26% nitrogen, and it's just going to fundamentally replace 60 pounds of nitrogen is just flawed thinking. Let me tell you how they come to that, first of all. And before I do that, I want to share with you, I'm the person, I believe firmly that you can take 11 pounds of phosphorus, and if it's in the right form and you put it in the right place, that you can replace 100 pounds of dry broadcast DAP. And we can stand on that. You've got the science numbers you can go through. You can use the numbers out of the fertilizer handbook. And there's all kinds of ways to prove that. And those are factual things. However, I can't find anywhere in that fertilizer handbook or any of the other books that I study and read and learn from where it talks about this. So in phosphorus, yeah, it makes a difference. In potassium, yeah, it makes a difference. In nitrogen, yes, it does make a difference on how we put it on. I firmly believe that banding is best. I believe that multiple shots are better. We just finished Y dropping here on Tuesday. And the thing is, we know that there are things we can do to reduce how much nitrogen we need. However, putting on 2 gallon of a 25 or 26% nitrogen product will not replace 60 pounds. I'm going to tell you how they got that. If I go out here into my cornfield and I know I'm nitrogen deficient, I've got the visual symptoms, I'm looking at it, I've done the tissue test and I know I'm deficient in nitrogen and for whatever reason don't choose to run a soil test, this is where I can really get confused. Because what will happen is on one half of the field, I can put 60 pounds of nitrogen on, and on the other half of the field, I can spray 2 gallon of this 25 or 26% product, and come fall, they yield the same. So what happens is I draw the wrong conclusion. In my brain, 2 gallons of that product did replace 60 pounds of urea or 60 pounds of 28, 60 pounds of 32. In fact, that's probably not what happened. Guys, if you're showing signs of nitrogen deficiency, the first thing that I would do is I would go out and I would do a soil test and I would go 0 to 6, 6 to 12, and 12 to 18. And I would check for nitrate and I would check for ammonium. Why is that? Because sometimes a lot of it is in one form and not the other. We had a good friend down in Oklahoma who really proved this for us, ran a nitrate test, had very little nitrate. And just before he decided he wasn't going to put on nitrogen until he ran the ammonium test, and he had boatloads of ammonium in. Now, the problem with it was that it was down deeper in the soil. So what happens is what we can do with those 2 gallon of that 25 or 26% product is we excite that plant like any good foliar feed will do, and it takes off. And when you excite the plant, the leaves get bigger. They call for more moisture, they call for more nutrients, and the roots go, hey, baby, we got to dig. And they go down. And so what happens is if we have positionally unavailable nitrogen, we've got nitrogen that's down 14 inches, but our roots are only down 9 or 10 inches, it doesn't do us any good. But when we excite that plant and those roots grow down into that other nitrogen, boom, miracles happen. And guys, true foliar feeding, what we're geared for there is we're not trying to replace anything. Because here's the bottom line. 2 gallon of a 25 or 26% is going to give me about 5.2 pounds of nitrogen. Period. End of story, 5.2. And if that all goes into that plant, every bit of it, and it may, I'm not going to deny that, but if it all goes into that plant, we're still way deficient. And any good foliar feed, whether we're doing the one at V3, the one at V8, or the one at R2, what are we doing? We're exciting that plant, getting that baby set up to go do more root growth. Now at V3 and V8, we're probably trying to correct deficiencies. We're going to take a look at what is it that we're lacking, and we're going to address that in the way of micros and secondaries and P and K. So that's earlier. But now I'm talking about just using the 26%. And guys, the fact of the matter is, I want to be crystal clear. I do not want you to think for 1 second that when you use this product of ours, that you're going to come up with 60 pounds of nitrogen as an equivalent. You may get another 60 pounds of nitrogen because you may excite those roots and they may dive down and get a hold of 60 pounds that they didn't have before. However, I want to make sure that we just have adequate in. And the best way to do that, we need the tissue test to tell us if we're deficient or sufficient or excessive, wherever we are. And then we need to do that soil test to see what is in that soil that we can go down there and get. And then we can make an intelligent decision on, do we need to foliar feed? Do we need to side dress? Do we need to try and get the roots to grow down to nitrogen that's already there? Or do we just not have enough nitrogen and we need to apply some? Or do we need to do both? And many times that's the case. Guys, we are entering an interesting time here. Obviously, we're watching these prices erode, and so we've got to be more judicious with each and every dollar. And I'm going to tell you that our guys who are the most successful tend to foliar feed a lot of their acres early, a very high percentage, even up to 100. And then they'll take their best half at V8, hit it again. And then when they do that final shot at R2, sometimes with fungicide, they're probably only pushing the best 25% of everything that they farm. Guys, foliar feeding is always going to get you a percentage of increase. And we all know 10% of 300 is a whole lot more fun to get than 10% of 100. Can our product go on with a fungicide? Absolutely. It was built for that. Can it be applied with an airplane or a drone? Absolutely. It was built for that. Will 2 gallon of this act as a carrier for your fungicide? Absolutely. It was built for that. And so when you start taking a look at all these things, if you're going to use a fungicide and you want to push your crop a little bit more, maybe you should take a look at investing $15 or $16. But the question becomes, we've got to make sure that if we spend $16, that we're going to get a minimum of about 8 bushel to the acre. And guys, I want to talk about different forms. Some of the interesting reading that I did on the internet, it talked about the fact that there is this form of nitrogen. This researcher didn't, obviously know me, didn't know our products. He said there's this form of nitrogen out there. It's called triazone, and it's engineered specifically to lay on a leaf longer to allow for a slow absorption. And on the one hand, people that don't have that say, well, you want that to go in there right now. You want a fast absorption. And typically what those guys are doing is selling a product that is some kind of a urea-based nitrogen, and they react that with formaldehyde. And when they do that, they get a product, and I'm going to tell you, it will go into the plant like right now. Formaldehyde, well, if you would like to embalm your corn plant, I think that's your choice. That's the way you should go. I think if you want it to go in right now, it's going to do that, and it's going to do it by burn. And guys, anytime we create burn, we create yield drag. Why do we want to apply something that we know is going to create burn? It's going to burn those leaves. It's going to make spots on those leaves. We spend all kinds of money to make sure we don't get a disease that's causing spots on the leaves because we know that will decrease yield. Why do we want to pay good money to apply something that's going to put spots on our leaves? Because that is going to mess with photosynthesis, and it's going to disrupt the natural growth of the plant, and it's going to cut down on yield potential. And so I would encourage you to ask some questions. If you've got people in your ear talking to you about why you ought to do this, it's worthy of a listen. I think we should be able to look and study and listen to a lot of things. However, I think we have to be judicious in what we do and ask why. You guys know that I believe that every one of you should be talking to whoever it is that you're purchasing products from, your input suppliers, and say, why am I doing this? Why am I buying this stacked trait over something else? Is this stacked trait, am I going to buy a stacked trait and I'm still going to have to use some kind of an insecticide or some kind of a, something else, some kind of a treatment? And then if that's the case, then why am I doing it? I want you to ask, why am I spending this much money on NP and K? Give me the science and the reasons as to why I should do this. And guys, if the reason is everybody knows, run. Just run. There are all kinds of things it was funny. Sheila and I were watching some TV last night, and it was a sitcom from, I think, maybe back in the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And on there, they got to railing on how bad eggs were for you, how they were going to wreck your life, ruin your cholesterol, make you have a heart attack and die. And it's funny, at my age, I've seen all kinds of things come and go. I can remember sitting in school back in the 70s, and they told us we were all going to die from an ice age, that climate change was happening, and the whole world was going to be covered with a glacier. Now here we are, 2024, the glaciers are all going to melt. Mount Kilimanjaro is going to be underneath water. Yeah, no, probably not. I'm not going to get into that whole political debate, but let's just say that the ice age didn't happen. Can we suffice it to say that? Can we suffice it to say that in my lifetime when I was a kid, eggs were considered very healthy, and then we went through a phase where they were not healthy, and now we're back to saying they're healthy. Everybody knew they weren't healthy. Everybody knew butter was terrible and margarine was great for you. And then, lo and behold, we figured out that margarine is basically kind of very similar to plastic in its chemical composition. So margarine's bad for you, and butter is good. Natural butter is better. And so we watch all those things. I just say all of that to say, when someone tells you everybody knows, be really suspicious, okay? 1491, everyone knew the world was flat. No question about it. It was flat. You could sail right off the edge of it. And then some little guy came out of over there around Spain and said, yo, look at this. Here's another nation that exists on the other side of the ocean. And lo and behold, the world wasn't flat anymore. And so, guys, as we start looking at this, when they're talking to you about the inputs, say why. They say everybody knows, that's kind of a red flag. If they start trying to sell you something that's a urea formaldehyde, say, why do I want to use this? Why would I not want something that would reduce the burn? And see what they say. And we get guys that call us all the time, and I love working with you guys. I love talking to you. The whole team just really enjoys working with guys. And, I get guys, they say, I started asking why, and I had a lot of people get really angry with me. They didn't want to tell me why. They didn't want to, say why we're doing that. They're just like, this is just what you need to do. It's your money. It's absolutely your money. The fact of the matter is you should be able to decide what you spend and how much you spend, and you should know why you're spending it. As a matter of fact, by the way, thinking about that, here in just a few days, we're going to be in central Iowa, up by Des Moines, doing one of our 2-day fundamentals of agronomy programs. And guys, I really want to encourage you, just come and take a look. Just come and see what we do. Come and take a look at a bunch of science so that you can make better decisions. Will you work with us after you do that? I hope so, but I don't know. Some do, some don't. That's not our deal. I'm not doing these thinking that all of you are going to call me up and mail me a monstrous check. I'm doing these hoping that we're making your life a little bit better, knowing that we're empowering you with some information, knowing that we're allowing you to ask better, stronger questions so that you can get better, stronger results, because that's the bottom line of what we're doing here. So guys, if you're going to be spraying some fungicide and you'd like to put some nitrogen with it, reach out to us. If you're thinking, hey, I'd kind of like to push my corn crop, it looks really good, and I want to be able to pick up some more bushels, we'd like to help you with that any way that we can. But mostly what I want today is for you to think. I hope you're listening to this. You're in a tractor, you're in a sprayer, you're doing something. And guys, I just want you to think about everything that we've said, roll it around and see what questions it has. If you have questions, reach out to us. Guys, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Just some things to think about in regards to your nitrogen. Hope you're having a blessed summer. Hope your weather is beautiful, that you get the right amount of rain. And as always, guys, we really do hope you're having a better day.
You're listening on the Verbal Crowd Network. Find more great shows at verbalcrowd.com.